Hi, pleasure to be here today. All right, so let's start. The topic of my presentation might be kind of controversial because I said goodbye QA, as if I was saying there's no more quality assurance, but there's rather digital assurance. I'll explain on that later in the presentation. Right, so let's start with something to cheer you up, maybe to wake you up a little bit after lunch. So, do you know this hashtag? Sort of, yeah? It was quite popular some time ago. Maybe it's not that popular right now, but it was spreading all over the social media throughout last couple of months, maybe couple of years, the 10 years challenge. Why did I put it in here? Well, first to cheer you up, and then there's a second reason that I will tell you about in a few seconds. So, this is my 10 years challenge. This is me 10 years ago, and this is me, well, about now. Few weeks ago, let's say. So as you can see, I've gained some kilograms. Surprisingly enough, I didn't lose any hair, and I changed my glasses to look a little bit smarter. All right, now this is a 10 years challenge for Gmail. This is how Gmail looked like in 2009 and transformed to 2019. You know how it looks like right now. This is our today's. Yeah, this is SJSE, so Polish testing board. This is how it was looking 10 years ago. I found this using web archives. Quite a nice engine to show some websites how they looked like some time ago. I didn't find Testwarez because it was missing some styles and stuff like that. Why am I showing this to you? Well, these websites and these things that I just showed, they transformed over the years, right? So the reason why I showed it to you is because today I'm going to talk about digital transformation, which is quite a buzzword and quite popular buzzword right now, and how I find QA accommodating to this digital transformation. So let's start with the definition of digital transformation itself. So is it the use of new, fast and frequently changing digital technology to solve your problems by Wikipedia? Or is it maybe an integration of digital technology into all areas of your business, fundamentally changing it to and the way you operate and deliver value? Or maybe it's even something different, something broader, a profound transformation of your business, all of its activities and processes to fully leverage all the opportunities that the digital age, digital era brings you. Well, companies themselves, they struggle to answer this question really well. Each and every company is actually trying to figure out its own definition of digital transformation, not to make it a buzzword, but rather to position themselves somehow in this ever-changing world, right? And it's good. It's not bad that they are trying to figure out their own definition, because there's no one common definition. When you type digital transformation into Google, you get over 320 million results which are trying to give you a definition of digital transformation. I'll get back on that later on in my presentation, but this is a good introduction to what I'm going to say. So as you can see, there's no common understanding of what digital transformation is, which made me think, okay, if there's no common definition and it's such a popular buzzword right now and all these companies are trying to be in this digital transformation, not to lose the train, how can QA accommodate to that, right? Where are we as a testers in this digital transformation? What does it mean for us? Is it changing anything? Maybe it's not changing. It's not changing nothing, right? Maybe we just need to stay with what we have. Well, I'll try to answer that question in this presentation. So, when trying to look how QA can accommodate to digital transformation, I got it into the same problems. So if there's no common definition of digital transformation, there's no common definition for QA in a digital world, QA in digital transformation. So I tried to dig deeper. Today, you were listening about this user perspective, this user side of asking questions, right? It's not only checking, but testing is all about figuring out the user perspective. So that was my first thought. Let's try the user perspective. Let's see how that goes, and maybe that will give me some answers how can QA accommodate to digital transformation? And there are quite a few different companies that are trying to understand what is modern QA, how it's present in this modern world. One of those companies is Adobe. Adobe is issuing a really nice digital transformation report year by year. Some of the slides that I'm going to show you now, some of the charts, are straight from that report. So one interesting fact about travel company: when people are trying to book their vacations, when they are going to holidays, and they are booking flights, accommodations, all this stuff, all the different things, they are using different websites and different means to do that. And interesting fact is that normally they use more than 2-3 websites, right? You see that only one website goes for roughly 9% of the users. That's one fact, that's one thing to consider. Another thing is, which source of truth do they find as the one that they are trusting the most? So when going somewhere, what they are looking for, who are they asking to know where to go, if it's a cool place or not, what to book, if the hotel is right or not. Well, if you look closely at this chart, it shows you that quite a few of the sources that are here are digital sources, right? It's not analog sources, it's digital. It's travel websites, it's search engines, it's travel agencies that are online, it's social media. That's another fact to consider. There's another company that tries to understand how user perspective changes in this digital world when analog services or products are less and less present. One of those companies is, maybe you know it, there's a Polish company that is called Testwarez. They are trying to understand how users are changing their behaviors throughout the years. And interesting fact to observe is that a few years ago, when you were trying to reach a product or a service, you were just using a single channel, maybe 2 channels, maybe 3. Nowadays, when you are designing your product or your service, you need to consider multiple channels. Imagine this: you're trying to book a flight, and what you do is you start your search using a website, you're digging through it, you're doing something, and suddenly something pops up, and you need to suddenly go out of your flat. You're going somewhere, but you still need to finish your reservation. What you're doing is you're switching to a different channel, right? You're using your mobile to finish whatever you started, whatever process you started. That means that the service that someone is designing needs to switch you seamlessly between those channels so that user doesn't get affected, right? He needs to be able to start somewhere and finish somewhere else without even noticing that it's changing after all, and allows him to complete whatever he was trying to achieve. That's also an interesting fact to consider. And what are my findings digging through these reports from different companies? Well, there are quite a few. I've listed 4 of them that I think are the most important to be able to explain what digital assurance means to me. So the first thing is that customer expectations are changing. It's no longer that they are using a single channel. Even it changes to a way that to a place where users are actually driving your business. So it's no longer that we are deploying something and seeing how users react. It's actually users giving us some tips, what they actually need, what they want, so that we can give them this service or this product, right? So they are shaping our priorities in the digital world because they are using many different devices, because they are using different channels. It has a name, it's called omni-channel, which means that they are expecting us to have our service available through multiple channels, switching between them seamlessly. So it brings us to the point where mobile is no longer a trend, it becomes a requirement. When figuring out how our product will look like, we need to be able to roll it out to all these different mobile devices. And I'm not only thinking about mobile phones, but it's also wearables, watches, and stuff like that, right? And of course, because it becomes, it's digital, so it's probably present all over the world, it's present in many different places, your product or your service, then you're drowning in data. When you're trying to understand what your users need, you're drowning in data, right? And we need to cope with that as a testers. So, a few numbers to tell you even more that it's actually a need to start to think differently about quality assurance. So, there are two more companies that are doing really interesting reports. As you can see, I'm a report guy and I like to really read through them. So in cooperation, there's Hotsuite and We Are Social. These are two companies that are also issuing their digital transformational digital around the world report. They are doing it yearly, same as Adobe does. And some interesting facts that you can figure out from here is that looking at the entire population, we have over 5 billion users that are mobile, and you can see the percentage of this, right? The entire population, 7.6 billion, and 5 billion of this is mobile users. That means that our world is digital. We can't do nothing about it, right? It's becoming digital more and more, and the facts are just confirming that. It's not that it's just a buzzword, it's a fact. These are researches that bring you data. So this data shows that we are really in a digital world. Some more numbers, internet users as percentage of population, over half of the people around the world are connected to the internet. And one more thing, or two more things, when it comes to business data, it's really a great market because it's growing, and the numbers are also showing that the annual growth in the number of mobile apps downloaded year by year is 10% more, and growth in value is 23%. And also, if you're interested in numbers in terms of money, it is a great potential for businesses to place themselves over there. So, are we as a QA prepared for that? Is our approach towards quality assurance is the correct one? Well, there are some approaches or some answers that are out there already. Maybe you've heard about something that is called modern QA. It's already something that is present on the market, which focuses on three aspects of our quality assurance that is aligned to this digital transformation. And those three aspects are that we are no longer finding bugs, but rather we are moving towards preventing bugs, right? That we are trying to make our QA service or shape our QA service in such a way that it prevents bugs, not really finds them. That the automation is used in a way that is much, much easier than it was a few years ago. And there are platforms that are helping us to build and maintain the entire life cycle. So the transformation goes from this to that. So instead of testing the apps themselves, we are testing bigger things right now, right? We are no longer testing single apps. It's a whole entire platform or a whole entire solution that we usually deal with in our daily job. We are no longer that much focused on functionality or security or performance, but rather it all needs to stay connected with strategy, with risks. That was underlined in today's presentations in the morning, right? The bug report that just shows a pure functionality versus a bug report that actually underlines the risk that is behind it. And we use automation not to click on something, but we rather use automation to automate the entire life cycle, to automate delivery, to make it faster, to respond to our customers' needs. So instead of being reactive, we are becoming predictive. We try to stop things from appearing rather than discovering them afterwards, right? So it all brings me to what I've called at the very beginning the digital assurance. So how can we define something that I'm calling digital assurance? I've spread it into 5 areas or 5 different points, how it's different from our current QA. So the first thing would be that we are no longer checking or making sure that the application really works. What we are actually focusing on is the customer experience. This is what matters. So if we have this customer that starts his process on one device and finishes it on another one and then switches to another one, we want this experience to be the highest quality throughout the process. This is what we do, right? We're not just purely testing. We figure out what's the customer experience, and we don't want him to be affected in any of those channels, and then the experience goes down, because he will live it and he will download the different app. Okay, now the second thing, how it transforms our QA, is assuring that the value chain, that the thing that we are delivering, our services or our products, stays consistent. So what we can do is, when, for example, approaching an application that uses some kind of a payment, this is where we're going to focus in the first place. Where we are starting our testing, we are starting where the business critical transactions are present. This is our first steps. This is what we do as QA. So we are no longer testing products or services. We are assuring that the value chain stays consistent throughout the entire process. Now, when using automation, it's no longer test automation, which isn't really even well received, right? Because we just said a few hours ago that the testing cannot be automated, checking can be automated, but the testing not. So where we use automation is rather to make our life cycle repeatable, make our life cycle reliable, so that we can focus on testing. This is what we do using what I call digital assurance. Now, companies trying to adapt to this digital transformation, whatever the definition is, are trying different models, and one of the most popular ones is DevOps. So DevOps allows them to accelerate what they do, right? To be able to quickly react and respond. And that changes our approach as well, because we need to test throughout the process. It was also touched today in the morning, right? That we need to switch from shifting left to shifting right to shifting left, so we are present all over the process. So we are in a world where we have continuous testing. That's what brings us the digital assurance. And last but not least, to be able to predict that something will happen, and to be able to cope with a lot of data that is coming from all those different channels, we need to be able to apply several different tools that allow us for monitoring, continuous monitoring, and analyzing what's happening right after the deployment, so that we can quickly react and maybe fix something. We need to be able to have a really reliable rollback procedures when something goes out and something is causing a huge bug. We need to be able to quickly revert it, fix it, and then put it there again, right? So this is how we work in digital assurance, in my opinion. So it shifts what we are actually doing in our daily job. It's no longer pure checking. Our efforts are focused somewhere else. We are starting to do a lot of work connected with environments, a lot of work connected with tools, kind of like I would say sysadmin or something like that. Right. And one last thing I wanted to tell you, because I started with this, that we are in a world of digital transformation, and that the companies are struggling to define what it really is. What is digital transformation? I like to say it's right there in the definition, because look at that. It says digital, meaning that we are switching from analog things to more and more into digital, and numbers are showing us that. And the other part is transformation, which means it's constantly changing. So when you are trying to align your QA in that, you need to be able to transform quickly, to change quickly what you're doing to something completely new, and understand that it's digital, right? So it means that our quality assurance is largely affected because we're gonna be transforming and transforming and transforming. What I just showed you in these 5 points might change in a couple of weeks or a couple of months or a couple of years, because that's what the digital transformation is all about. It's constant change of the business to be able to be present in a digital world and to use it to its full potential. That's what I wanted to tell you today, and that sums up my today's presentation. Thank you a lot. I'm open for questions.